Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Bryndis. In today's video we are talking about Charlotte Brontë and the 4 books that she wrote. I had originally planned to do like just one video with all the 3 Brontë sisters, but I find that I have quite a lot to say about Charlotte's books. So I thought I would just do her first, and then I will do a second video where I talk about the books by Anne and Emily Brontë. At the beginning of the year, I decided to one of my goals for the year was to read more classics, and specifically Victorian English classics. And so I decided I was going to read all the 7 novels by the Brontë sisters. I'd never read any of them, and I thought that would be a fantastic project to do, really get me into classics and the Victorian period for the most part, as well as just reading, the books by these very famous female authors. So I decided I'm reading one book by them a month. So I've read all the 4 books already by Charlotte Brontë. So Charlotte Brontë was born in 1816 in Yorkshire in England, and she was the 3rd of 6 children of her parents, but her 2 older sisters died in their childhoods. And so she was left as the oldest child and the oldest sister. She was quite well educated by her father mostly, but also in different schools. And she worked as a governess for a few years, which you can definitely see in a lot of her writing. She wrote 4 novels that were originally published under the pseudonym of Currer Bell, but she also wrote some poetry. She died in 1854, the last of all of her 4 remaining siblings, most likely from hyperemesis gravidarum. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. Which is basically this is quite rare but very extreme form of morning sickness. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about her 4 novels, and I'm going to, in my discussion of them, I'm going to talk about them in the order that they were written, not how they were published. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to rank them, put them into kind of order how much I like them. Although I'm sure you will figure that out as well as I am talking about them. The first book that I'm going to talk about is The Professor. And this was the first book that Charlotte Brontë wrote. She tried to get it published, but it was rejected. And it wasn't published until after her death. And her husband kind of edited and revised the manuscript before it was published in 1857. So the professor tells the story of William Crimsworth, who is a young man who has to kind of try to find his way in the world without any support from his family or from any financial support from any connections that he may have. It is a first-person narrative, and it's told from William's point of view. So he has an older brother, but he is estranged from him. And with the help of some friends, he does manage to get a job in Brussels. So he becomes a teacher, or the professor of the title. He teaches English at a upper secondary school. And so the plot, I would say, is kind of twofold. First of all, it's William kind of finding his way as a teacher, and kind of realizing that he can be independent or not necessarily realizing. I think that's something that he wanted from the start, to be independent. But so he's realizing that he's able to do that by making his own fortune, basically, by working. Obviously, being of a gentleman, as a gentleman in those times, you wouldn't really work. So it's even though it's probably come down in society, he's kind of rising up as a person and being kind of proud of who he is. And then the secondary plot, or the second part of the plot, is a beautiful romance, a love story between him and one of the teachers. So it is, in that sense, it is actually a very sweet and lovely little story. In the introduction of this Wordsworth Classics edition that I have, the author of the introduction, Sally Minogue, she calls this a flawed novel. And I can see that. It's somewhat flat. There's not a lot of drama and underwhelming for sure. And I think the plot also is quite unrealistic. So how things are resolved and stuff like that. And I find also the characters are quite unsubstantial. It's very underwhelming. I think is the best word to describe this book is underwhelming, considering it was written by Charlotte Brontë. The things I really enjoyed about this book was first of all Charlotte's writing. I really enjoy Charlotte Bronte's writing. And her narrative, or kind of her style of writing, basically, I really enjoy. I really enjoyed the kind of her description of the profession of being a teacher, and kind of the pedagogy, the approach to teaching, the very different kind of views of pupils from today. And this is something that I'm fascinated about, both as a teacher myself, but also as someone who's very interested in history and how the act of teaching and pedagogy has evolved in the last hundreds of years. I find that fascinating. And so that really kind of made me super interested in this book. And so I was often just reading with those kind of feelings, because I really enjoyed, even though I disagreed with almost every method that he used as a teacher, I really enjoyed the descriptions of it. So that's really, I mean, there's one, he talks about, for example, that he needs to break the spirit of his pupils in order to be able to teach them. And I'm like, no. That's not good practice, for sure, in today's teaching profession. Yeah, but anyway, I thought it was, I really enjoyed that part of the story. I also enjoyed the love story. I thought it was very sweet and cute and very realistic how these two characters would actually fall for each other. They were very well suited, both in temperament, but also in their interest in being teachers and stuff like that. So that's really, and I really enjoyed, there was somewhat of a progressive view, which I don't think that Charlotte always makes obvious in her books, for sure, that William was okay with Francis, the other, his love interest, actually working even after they were married. That was kind of what she set that as a kind of as a condition to marrying him, was that she would continue to work and as a teacher, and he was okay with that. So that was almost like, oh yeah, Charlotte, that I like that. But so that was a part of the plot that I really liked. The thing that I did not like about this book was just the fact that it was so unrealistic. It felt like it was written by myself when I was 15, and I had like I could envision my life when I was 30, you know, all this perfection. And yeah, I can imagine poor Charlotte writing this. I mean, they did not have a very easy life, so I can see herself writing this kind of little fantasy of her like how she would like her life to become, but that it was just too. It went way beyond what is realistic and what could have happened. So that really kind of knocked parts. It kind of didn't ruin the book for me. I still enjoy it, and I would still recommend it. But it's not. It's definitely not my. You know, it's not the best thing that I've read for sure. The second book that Charlotte Brontë wrote was Jane Eyre. This was published in 1847, and during its, like when it was first published, it did receive some mixed reviews, but today it is without a doubt one of the greatest classics of our time, or like of classical literature. Yeah, I mean, I think that everybody would probably knows about Jane Eyre, but the book tells her story. It is from her first-person narrative perspective, and it basically tells her story from early childhood to her adulthood. She's an orphan, so she's first in the care of her aunt, who doesn't like her at all, and then she is moved to this boarding school, and then later she becomes a governess and meets Mr. Rochester, and exciting things start to happen. This is such an excellent book. So, this was the first book that I read this year, and I was just like, I can't believe I hadn't read it before. Jane Eyre is a fantastic female character. She is strong and independent, but also, you know, flawed in many ways. It really took me a while to like Mr. Rochester. You know, at first I found him to be just kind of obnoxious, but then like, okay, I can see, like, I can understand why he behaves the way he does and all those things. So he's kind of slowly grown on me, although he's far from being my favorite character in classical literature. There really is nothing that I did not like about this book. Even Mr. Rochester, I could kind of slowly kind of get to like him. And even if I didn't like him, it doesn't mean that I didn't like the book. Like I can really enjoy a book even with unlikable characters. But it's so good. There's so much happening in this book. It is just so good. Shirley is the second book of Charlotte Brontë that was published in 1849. It's her third book that she wrote. It's an historical novel, and it is set in 1811 to 1812 during the Industrial Depression resulting from the Napoleonic Wars, and it is also connected with the Luddite uprising. Luddites being a movement of textile workers who opposed certain aspects of the industrialization of the textile industry. I got that from Wikipedia because I think it's important to know the background. So it takes place several decades before it was actually written. So it tells the story of Caroline and Shirley. So they become friends after Shirley moves into the neighborhood. And then we also have Robert Moore and his brother Louis, who have a Belgian background, and they speak a lot of French. And drama and romance and heartbreak and all of the things ensue. So the things that I really liked about this book is, first of all, that I find that Charlotte Brontë really gets to be funny. There are some really hilarious kind of phrases and descriptions here. I thought, I think I also talked about it in one of the wrap-ups videos when I was talking about this book, but like she says, it was as unromantic as a Monday morning. I think that is just, that gentle readers should avoid chapter 18 because they might get offended. And then description of the lady, I can't remember her name, but she had a cold, but she basically had that cold for like 20 years. So I thought that was really fun. Charlotte Bronte's, again, her writing style, I absolutely love. I also enjoyed kind of the harsh criticism of the kind of society and these hardships of the working class, and like the kind of lack of understanding from the upper classes and the kind of government in like helping the working class who are losing their jobs because of the industrialization. So, and just the poverty, the starvations that followed because people couldn't, lost their jobs and couldn't feed their children. And kind of, I think she also has a really harsh criticism of how the gentry, like the people who still had money, how they often didn't have sympathy and were not willing to help. So I thought that was really interesting. And there are also some really interesting discussions about gender roles and marriage and, how men and women should or should not be and stuff like that I found very interesting and enjoyed quite a lot. So there were a few things that I did not like about this book. Firstly, it's very long, and there are long parts that I found to be very slow, and I'm not sure that they necessarily needed to be included. It's very, very I do enjoy Charlotte Bronte's writing and her descriptions of the places, the people. I think they're absolutely fantastically done. But sometimes it was just too many, too long. So that was my main kind of things that I really didn't like about this book. Sometimes it felt like it was dragging. But there were also two characters in this book that I just didn't like. It was too much of them. They were very unlikable to me, and like I said before, I don't mind unlikable characters, but it went a little bit too far. Louis Moore or Louis, I think I remember him being pronounced as Louis. I did not like him at all. I could not. Why, Shirley? Why? He was such a horrible, chauvinistic pig. I'm sorry. I know that this was 19th century, but he was always like his inner dialogue. He was telling himself he wanted a wife that he could teach, that he could mold and create the perfect wife from. He wanted her to be humiliated by her saying something that was wrong and then running to him for him to teach her the right. Yeah. I think I may have talked about this as well in my February wrap-up, but I did not like that. And then there was this little boy, Martin, a sociopath, a psychopath, I don't know. Like, he was talking about, I think, torturing animals, which seems to have been it's a theme in some of these books, because I think if I remember from reading Charlotte Bronte's life biography by Elizabeth Gaskell, their brother sometimes did that, tortured animals. So maybe that's why they were writing about it. But also not only that, but Martin was always also talking about how he was going to manipulate Caroline and lie to her and see how she reacted if he told her something that was bad, but it wasn't true. And I was like, what? Why? And this was a character there was no reason for him to be included in the book. Yeah, that I did not like that. But totally in general, I would recommend this book, and I did very much enjoy it, actually, in spite of those two horrible characters. Then we have Villette. So this one was published in 1853, and it was the last book that Charlotte wrote. It's a kind of a reworking of The Professor, but still quite different. And tells the story of Lucy Snow, who is an orphan and, without any kind of prospects or connections, or very, very few connections. And she moves to Villette, which is a fictional city in the continent of Europe, most likely or most certainly modeled from Brussels. Charlotte Brontë lived in Brussels for a while, and she lives. So it's Villette, which is modeled on Brussels, and it's in the fictional kingdom of La Basqueur, which is basically modeled on Belgium. So Lucy Snow takes a job as an English teacher at a girls' upper secondary school, and so the plot really is about her finding her way as a teacher and kind of coming of age, I suppose, and her kind of relationship with her students and with her other teachers, and then her reconnection with old family friends, and romance ensues. So it is definitely a romantic book, or there are several romantic plots, and yeah, it's a very interesting book for sure. So what I liked about this book is Lucy Snow as a character. She was really interesting. I thought she was complicated and well written, and just really enjoyed her narration. So it's a first person. No, I don't remember if it's all the way through, but it's definitely from her perspective. And I think maybe because I found myself a little bit relating to her experiences, for like having myself moved to a foreign country, worked as a teacher with, in a language that wasn't my own, and kind of being, obviously I wasn't alone in the world. I have a very loving family and friends, but I did move away from everybody, and I was very much alone. So I kind of like, yeah, Lucy, I can feel you. I know, I've been there. I also really enjoyed kind of the love triangles and attention and the hope and the desire for just making a human connection, which I find that maybe is a big theme in the book, this desire to connect. What I did not like about this book is that, again, it was quite slow at times. Did not need to be this long, for sure. So I got kind of bored. And there were other issues that I have with this book. And it's about like the language used at times. Now I understand that it's written in the 19th century, and I generally don't have a problem distancing myself from the mentality of the people, because you cannot put your own 21st century like thinking into a book that was written 200 years ago, almost. Like it's not fair to the book or the author of the book, and it's just not how, our thinking, our sensibilities, they evolve, and how you would talk about things and include things today is very different from how you talked about things in the 19th century. But so the one thing that I was kind of very tired of was it's so anti-Catholic. And I understand that, like, Charlotte Brontë was, I think, quite religious in her, like, the Anglican Church. And I think the sentiments in the Anglican, I think she was Anglican, Protestant at least. So, and those were very anti-Catholic at the time. And that there are a lot of political reasons and like stuff like that. So that's fine. But it's just like, if you're going to be moving to a Catholic country, if you're moving to any country that has a different religion from your own, even in the 19th century, maybe you need to like, stop with the judgment. Like, it was very coarse, I think. And yeah, I did not enjoy that. But the thing that really, I feel that it ruined the book for me. And which is a shame, because I don't think it's a bad book. But there is a part where Lucy Snow is alone during the summer, and except for a pupil, a girl who has a disability. And her descriptions of that girl and that disability is horrendous. And I don't know if I can forgive Charlotte Brontë for that. And I know that it's not fair because, again, people with disability were thought of differently than they are today. But it was just so in your face, horrible. And it basically kind of made me, I almost DNF'd the book after that, but I thought, no, this is, because I'm doing this project, I'm going to finish it. And I think it's such a shame, because there are other things in this book that are really good. I mean, I think that, for example, the ending of the book, it's very ambiguous. Is it a happy ending or not? And I loved that. I thought it was so well done. It was brilliant. But then this part with the girl with a disability really kind of ruined that to a degree. So yeah, I was quite upset about that, actually. And yeah. So now that I have read all these 4 novels by Charlotte Brontë, I can definitely understand why she is such a big name in classical literature. And like, she was really an excellent novelist. I love her writing style. I think it is absolutely fantastic. How she like often like breaks the fourth wall, I think it's called. Like, she talks right straight, like she says, like, reader, like talking straight right to us. I really like her descriptions of the settings of the books and the characters. I think she does excellent with most of the characters, are like really good character building. And her social commentary also, I think, is just fantastic. And she does talk a lot about the role of women, marriage, religion, and society as well. And I think it's just fantastic. I also think that Charlotte Brontë can be really funny. and there are some hilarious points within most of her books. But she can also be quite sarcastic and ironic, so that's really interesting. But I think that she does it for the most part in such a fantastic way that it's not like in your face or like really hard hitting. It's very subtle, which is what I think is what makes it so great. So to end this video, I'm going to rank the books. I don't think that you will necessarily be surprised with the order that I don't think there's anything revolutionary about the way that I'm going to order them, but let's do that. So I'm going to start with the least favorite and work myself up. And the least favorite of the bunch is Villette. 3 stars I gave it. Like I said, it would easily have been a 4-star, except for those couple of things that I mentioned that I just did not like at all. Next in line is also with 3 stars, The Professor. And the 3-star is simply because it was okay. Nothing remarkable, but I enjoyed reading it, and it was just not a cute story, but it was, short and simple and easy to read. The second favorite was Shirley with 4 stars. And again, I did very much enjoy this book, and the only reason it doesn't get 5 stars is because there were just a couple of parts in the book that I thought were way too long and dragged quite a lot. And then, of course, my favorite, no surprise here for sure. Jane Eyre is just a masterpiece. Everybody should read it, and it's just so good. I hope you enjoyed this video about Charlotte Bronte's 4 novels. If you've read any of them or have any thoughts, please leave it in the comments below, and we will have a chat. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!